Happy Mother's Day, Jessica.
Oh, thank you.
Happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you. Exciting.
Your first Mother's Day.
Yeah.
You know what I got you?
I mean, technically, I've been around for a few of them, but...
Well, I mean, technically, we all have Mother's Day every year.
Yeah.
You know what I got you?
Nothing. Until today.
We're doing this episode on time. That's your Mother's Day gift.
That's my Mother's Day gift. Wow,
That's my
thank
Mother's
you.
Day gift to you because I love you so much. The mother of my child.
Yep.
I want all the world to know your mother's trying. Oh, we should carve our names into the note that tree trunk buried in the snow.
I like that I said yep, like... Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Hello. We're back with an episode less than 4 weeks before the previous one. I think we're doing pretty good. This is a new record for us.
Well, only, since Cooper's been born, this is a new record for us. Mm-hmm. Previously, we used to get episodes out on time.
Previously, on Sadie Hawkins Pod, we talked about Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's right, Sonic the Hedgehog.
And now we're here talking about Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes. Matthew Thiessen's side project, solo project, and the song Mother's Triumph, because today is...
Mother's Day.
Hold on. Yeah, today is... I'm looking up some other funny holiday that happens to be...
Oh, I see.
On May 12th. 2024. It's International Day of Plant Health. Happy International Day of Plant Health.
Wow.
That's why we're talking...
every day is something.
That's why we're talking about the song Mother's Triumph, because he's singing about the fruit trees.
That's right.
At the house in Connecticut.
It was much more appropriate for Mother's Day to pick this song off Wind Up Bird and not Oedipus.
I don't get it.
Sorry, Cooper. He started making noises. He's like, Mom, that's not a funny joke.
That's not funny. Sure it is. Oh, it's International Nurses Day.
Nice.
So make sure to put on Enema of the State. It's National Nutty Fudge Day.
What? Stop. No.
Happy
Absolutely
National
not. Who comes up with
Nutty
these?
Fudge Day.
Do you have to register these with someone? Could anybody come up with a day and be like, this is International whatever day, and then you register it with the registrar and they send it out to, I don't know, the internet calendar?
Is it like
they make a hashtag
change.org and trying to get Escape from the City as the national anthem
and to make Hot Topic smell like it did in 2004 or whatever?
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about that last week. We talked about change.org and the Sonic the Hedgehog song, but so what's funny is that according to daysoftheyear.com,
wow,
they list our favorite national days on May 12th. International Day of Plant Health is number 1 for some reason. Mother's Day is number 2.
What? Stop.
International
Only
Nurses
the most
Day.
trusted of sources.
National Nutty Fudge Day.
Good Lord.
National Limerick Day.
Nutty Fudge Day comes before Limerick Day on this website?
I guess so. National Limerick Day, where we celebrate all the men from Nantucket.
Do you know any other limericks?
That's the only limerick I know.
That's the only limerick at all.
What's a famous limerick? I'm asking Siri.
It's going to do that one.
14 most famous limericks. KingofLimericks.com.
Again, only the most trusted of sources here on Sadie Hawkins Pod.
This well-known limerick, whose author remains unknown, currently conveys the nature of the limerick, at least its prudent place in popular culture, and the limerick goes as such. The limerick packs laughs
What?
Anatomical. The limerick packs laughs anatomical into space that is quite economical, but the good ones I've seen so seldom are clean, and the clean ones are seldom comical.
No, King of Limericks made that up.
But it's a limerick about how the only limericks people care about are the dirty ones, and that the clean ones aren't very funny.
Right.
Which, of course, is true. Why would the clean ones be funny? Also, happy, though, to those who might suffer from it or know the people who do. It's National Fibromyalgia Awareness Day.
Oh, wow.
It's National Odometer Day.
Stop. Stop.
The only thing I could think to do on National Odometer Day is to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, good call.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Yep.
That is odometer related. It's Christian Aid Week. So I guess like giving Christian aid to other countries or something.
Nice. Or are you giving Christians aid?
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
That happens every Sunday though with tithes.
Well, that's helping the church, not individuals. I mean, I guess it depends on what the church does with those tithes.
It's Screen Free Week, which I feel like is a constant thing of people always saying reduce your screen time. It's National Women's Health Week. I guess we're going up in time delineation because we went from days to weeks.
Do you know what I didn't realize? Sorry, we have Cooper's Easter Bunny pictures that we talked about, I think, last week. Or last time, not last week. And I didn't realize they put a little logo for the Americana in the corner.
Okay.
And it says Americana on it. Like, they put that in post.
Nice.
It's so
Everyone
interesting.
has to know this. You're just noticing
Sorry,
that.
I just noticed it. Did you notice that? I didn't notice that on the pictures. I only just noticed it.
Why were you telling all of our listeners?
I don't know.
Because you're looking at
Because I just saw it, and I was like, oh, and I would have just told you. I'm just telling you. There just so happens to be a microphone in front of us.
You will forget to tell me later.
Yeah.
By the time the podcast is over.
Yeah.
Well, it's also Remy Malek's birthday. Emilio Estevez, Stephen Baldwin, he's a Christian, and George Carlin. I think he was also a Christian, if I'm not mistaken. I am mistaken. That's a joke. Anyway, yes, it's Mother's Day, and we're here doing a Matthew Thiessen The Earthquakes song. We still have a voicemail to listen to, and, of course, we have to talk about the earth-shattering reactions to Sonic Hedgehog Pod last week.
The earthquaking reactions?
The earthquaking reactions, which I'm kidding. Our episode did about regular numbers, but that's good that people were like, yeah, they were. Well, I got lots of people excited on the social media. Lots of people, like 5 people. That's lots of people to me. Excited we were back talking about Sonic the Hedgehog,
nice.
Which I think is what our only voicemail is about.
Nice.
But Jessica, how did you celebrate Sonic Hedgehog Pod season?
By recording right here. By sitting around listening to you watch and complain about the Knuckles TV show.
It's been a difficult watch. It's been a difficult watch. It's
not meant for you. It's meant for children.
I don't think it's meant for children, though.
I don't know who it's meant for, actually.
So, we didn't really... We brushed on it last week, but we did our Sonic the Hedgehog joke episode, because when they release a live-action Sonic thing, we got to do that. And we'll be, I guess, doing it again next year when Sonic the Hedgehog 3 comes out with Keanu Reeves as the voice of Shadow.
Oh, snickety snap.
Well, the Knuckles TV show has been a painful watch, and it's just painful because it's just so rote and, like, tropey, and, like, this is things that movies do. These are reactions. It's a lot of, like...
But Knuckles is the warrior. Get it? Because he's a warrior. I am the warrior.
That's the theme song. But it's a lot of... Did you just say that? Comedy. Constantly. They're not literally saying the words, did you just say that? But just imagine that every single line and quote-unquote joke, every minute, every 60 seconds, a character is doing a, oh, did you just say that? Kind of thing. Constantly. That's all the humor of the show. And
Rizzo's in it, though.
Who is?
What's her name? Mrs. Bartlett, the first lady from the West Wing. What's her name? I can't think of what her name is.
I don't know.
Channing Tatum.
Oh, she is?
What's her name? Darn it, she plays the mom, the guy's mom, the cop guy's mom.
The mom from Mom?
What? No.
No, not Janning.
That's Allison
Janning. Okay, she's the cop guy's mom. I have no idea.
You know from Grease, Danny.
No, I literally had no idea. I believe you
what is her name?
That the cop's mom from Knuckles is in Grease and The West Wing, but I have no idea who you're talking about.
Watch me be wrong. I'm on IMDb. Hang on. Stockard Channing. Boom. I am correct.
Stockard Channing. I know that name, and I knew if you told me that name, I'd be like, isn't that person in Grease? But I literally had no idea. Isn't Stockard Channing? She's like the one. She's the one who wears the She has the hair, right? She has the black hair. Is she the one in the condom scene where the condom breaks right before they're about to have sex? And then is that the one? How do you spell Stalker Channing? What?
She's the bad girl from Greece.
Yeah,
Yes.
the bad girl from
Yes.
Greece. Okay. I was trying to describe... I've only seen Grease in its entirety one time in my entire life. So I'm like, the one who's like the bad girl who has the dark hair and...
Yes.
There's a scene early in... Isn't she the one who gets pregnant? Because she's about to have sex with the guy early in the movie, and right before they do the condom breaks, and then the joke is, we're just going to do it anyway.
Honestly,
and then she gets pregnant. Or she thinks she's pregnant, and then by the end of the movie, it turns out it's a fake. It was a false positive.
Honestly, I'm a bigger West Wing fan than a Grease fan, so...
Well, you gotta choose one or the other.
Like, yeah.
It's a famous rivalry between the West Wing and Grease.
No, I just mean, like, my memory is not serving me right now.
I'd only just seen it, like, 2 or 3 years ago.
Right.
In its entirety. When Paramount Plus when Paramount
I used to
Plus
watch it a lot on
came out.
VHS as a kid.
But Stalker Channing...
I put on one-woman shows of Grease in my bedroom, and there's probably a videotape of it somewhere. I had this, like, chest sort of thing that was kind of longer and very sturdy, and I would, like, use that as my stage. I don't know why I'm sharing that anecdote, but...
I kept like, how do you spell Stalker Channing? So I'm spelling stalker like I'm like a vampire stalks.
Sorry.
So
why didn't you just go to Knuckles?
Good point. Or Grease or anything.
Or Grease or West Wing or Practical Magic. What else is she in?
Stalker. So all I wanted to say was Stalker Channing is the one where in the opening credits of Grease, when the photos of them then fade to a cartoon drawing of them.
Yeah.
Stalker Channing is the one that it fades to her cartoon and it's totally drawn in the most embarrassing, cruel way. Yes. She has these big chipmunk cheeks. This is it right here. I'm just showing you.
Yes.
Everybody else's cartoon of their character is drawn flattering.
It's just mean.
It's just mean. Like they drew like these like pursy lips with just the teeth just like chucking like this, and she's got these big cheeks and these like lines all around her face. It's the most terrible fade. Like every other character's cartoon representation in the opening credits is drawn pretty flatteringly, except for hers.
Right.
And I first discovered this. It's become a semi-meme. I've actually heard other people talk about it on the internet in the last 10 years. Randomly, who knows how and where I happen to see people talk about it. But I remember one time I was at the world's biggest McDonald's in Orlando. When we lived in Orlando.
Yeah.
And they were just playing the first chapter of the Grease DVD on constant loop. Like they put the Grease DVD into the DVD player for like the patio of the world's biggest McDonald's, and it must have been, DVD players had that repeat function where you could repeat a chapter, so it just kept playing the opening scene on the beach, the credits, and the first few minutes of the scene after the opening credits on repeat the whole time that I'm sitting there having my bistro McDonald's, because the world's biggest McDonald's, up until a point, had a special kitchen where you could get like Egg McMuffins Benedict and like pasta.
Oh, you could get all sorts of stuff. Yeah, you could get pasta. You could get see, that was my main go-to one. You could get like pizza. You could get all sorts of random stuff from that place. And they had a ton of video games and stuff. I bet it's sad now. I bet all that cool stuff is gone.
Well, I think the last time we looked into the world's largest McDonald's, they had totally redone the outside.
Yeah.
Because also the Bistro McDonald's brand was an Orlando-specific thing. If you saw a Bistro McDonald's around the Orlando area, you could go in there, and they'd have other types of food that weren't just McDonald's food. We're just rambling right now, but we're just catching up with everybody. This is our first real regular episode of Sadie Hawkins Pod in like 2 months since whatever Kids on the Street. No, if you think about Kids on the Street was not really a regular episode. Escape from the City was not really a regular episode. I know, but they were like weird episodes. Here we are talking about a real song. So we're ramping up. We're chit-chatting. We're getting ready. We're just catching up with you guys. How are all of you out there doing? That's what I really want to know. Have you been
waiting for an answer?
Any Orlando locals? Did you ever go to the Bistro McDonald's in the 90s and early 2000s? What are your Bistro McDonald's memories? I just loved the Egg McMuffin Benedict. It was literally an Egg McMuffin, open face, on a plate with hollandaise sauce.
Man, there was still a Mac Tonight in there. I bet he's gone now. We're taking Mac Tonight back. He's not allowed to be for the racists anymore.
Anyway, yeah, that's sad. They're like the certified hate groups are just allowed
the
to
bad people took Mac Tonight, and we're taking him back.
Yeah,
he belongs as the nostalgia king he is.
Who cares?
He represents classy McDonald's.
Who cares about Pepe the Frog? Whatever. They can have him. They can't have Mac Tonight.
No.
So we do have a voicemail.
Nice.
So we have to check this out. I reminded everybody last week, like about 2 weeks ago was our last episode, that our new outgoing voicemail is recorded by Jessica. So if you haven't called and left a voicemail in a long time, call up and hear Jessica talking to you and not just me anymore.
402-95-SADIE.
So here is Daniel calling for the first time in a while.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Daniel. Haven't called in a while, but I am calling in because it was awesome that you guys did the Sonic song, the Escape from the City song. That's what it's actually called. I just that song is definitely also an important part of my life as well. I'm not. I would say I'm a gamer adjacent person. I've got, I've played like Halo and Smash Brothers plenty growing up, but didn't really get into games that much outside of that. But one of my best friends, his name is David Vincent, and we met in middle school, and he introduced me to a lot of games and stuff. And so Sonic Adventure 2 was definitely one that we played. Mostly I just like watched him play it, but that song immediately grabbed me because that was right around the time I was getting into Relient K and MXPX and stuff, and I hadn't really heard that much pop punk music at that point, but I knew immediately that I loved that song. I do think it's like a ska punk song. I don't know whether you consider that third wave or fourth wave, but to me it sounds like it fits in very much with like the kind of less than Jake Goldfinger kind of stuff. It leans much more on the punk side of it, I think, than the ska side. But it's one of the best songs of that genre that I've ever heard, to be honest. I'm sure there are much better ones out there, but like I've always loved that one a lot. Maybe it's just because you don't get that much good ska punk music in video games if they're not like skating games or whatever. So to get one in like a Sonic game is just extra special treat, but big song for my life as well, and feels good to have the Relient K podcast covering that. It feels like worlds colliding, so I'm glad that y'all did that, and have a good one.
Yeah, come on, Relient K. Do a cover of Escape from the City.
That'd be
K
great.
is for karaoke, too.
Oh, boy.
I talked about this a little bit. I said about it being a ska song. I guess the studio track of the version in Sonic Adventure 2 is a ska punk song. My only caveat was that when you hear the Sonic Generations redo, it's kind of like an on the page, note for note. Not note for note because they change up like the bass line and stuff, but it's basically the same. They don't drastically change the song. All they did is re-record it and remove the ska guitar, and it's the same song. And all I realized between the Sonic Generations version and the original Sonic Adventure version, Sonic Adventure 2, was like you take the Sonic Adventure 2 version and you just lift out the ska guitar, and it's the same song, and it's just a punk song, which a lot of pop punk songs are. Like, a lot of pop punk songs are just punk songs that have ska guitar layered on top, but a lot of most other pop punk songs are technically really just fast ska music, like your Impressions That I Get and your Sellouts and your Science of Selling Yourself Short and all those like big songs by major ska bands. Like, if you turn it into a straight ahead punk song, you're totally transforming the original song. Like, it's usually the ska part is just ska part. But if you take the studio track from Sonic Adventure and you just cut, like on Pro Tools, you just turn down the ska guitar, it's suddenly just a pop punk song. So I agree, technically having that ska guitar on there makes it a pop punk song, but at its heart, it's just a pop punk song that you can add some extra ska guitar on top
You're
of.
a pop punk song.
I know I say pop weird. I say pop. When I say pop, I say pop. I say popcorn. I say pop punk. I don't say punk pop. Have we talked about this maybe years ago?
Probably.
Punk pop. All Music, aka All Rovey, has insisted for almost 30 years that pop punk music is called punk pop. Nobody and their mother, Happy Mother's Day, nobody and their mother calls it punk pop. I mean, I guess technically...
Maybe Canadians do. Canadians, do you call it that?
Do they?
I don't know.
I'm not aware. But it's All Rovey is like this bastion of like strange old thinking. Like, they just refuse to change the pop punk. Because for those who haven't used it, All Music and All Rovey, before you had like Discogs and like what else do people use nowadays for like discovering music, and like Encyclopedia. All Music was basically the IMDb of music, or it was the closest thing to it, but it was all editorially controlled, unlike an IMDb, which had a lot of user interface, and a Discogs, which is just accumulating like existing information about records, about every single record and every variation. All Music was an encyclopedia of music genres and bands, but it was all written by the editors at All Rovey, All Music. Mm-hmm. So whatever they stuck with as ideas, they have stuck with for almost like 20, I said 30, but like 25 years of the internet, going back to like 97, 98, when I first got on the internet, and I discovered All Music as like the preeminent music encyclopedia, where you like learn about you go and you search by genre, or you search by year, and you search by a band you like, an artist you like, and then you look at artists that sound similar, other artists you should check out. They have never changed punk pop to pop punk, ever. They also, though, have never given up the original definition of emo. Like, if you go to the emo page for allmusic.com, it is squarely like cut off in 1999, in 2000-ish, 2001. Like,
wow.
When dramatic pop punk started getting called emo, All Rovey All Music held the line and said, no, emo is what we called it in the 90s. Screw you.
That sounds like you.
It does.
Do you write for them?
No, I don't.
Okay.
But
are you sure?
Let me think about it. No, I don't. One other weird thing about allmusic.com is you can't find information about Brian. I think it's Brian Adams.
What?
Who is it? Brian Adams? Who does the I don't want to get this wrong.
The 80s singer?
Yeah, it's definitely an 80s singer. Who sings is it Brian Adams? I don't want to have to edit. No, it's not Brian Adams. Oh, who's the guy who sings all sultry, and he has he's a 90s guy. He sings all shoot.
An 80s guy or a 90s
Isaac.
guy?
Chris Isaac.
Oh, okay.
Chris, is that his name? Like, it's I'm just having one of those things.
That's definitely not Brian Adams then. No?
Yeah, but it's just the name is so similar. I was thinking of it. Yeah. Wicked Game, Blue Hotel. Is it Chris Isaac? It's Chris Isaac, right? Like he was on the soundtrack to some movies.
I don't know.
Hold on, I'm gonna pause so I can figure this out. Okay, it was Bryan Adams. It was not Chris Isaac.
Okay.
So I should have trusted myself in the first place, and I started thinking it was no, just their names and their faces, and the fact that they're both '90s, sort of late '80s
like
to
Summer of
'90s guys.
'69 or
Yeah.
Heaven or any of those other ones.
So
Man,
apparently, so this is just I just typed in Bryan Adams and All Music on Google, and the fact that they give me first is from tedium.co. Tedium.co. That should be the name of our website. Apparently, some legal beef happened between Bryan Adams and the owners of All Music database, and All Music responded by removing basically all mention of him from the site entirely. Due to the request of Mr. Adams, we are no longer permitted to display his information on All Music, the company's FAQ stated. And, like, this isn't... Whatever happened... It's BS because they're an encyclopedia.
Right.
There's no and they're not playing the music.
Right.
They just say
so
that the
odd.
albums exist, and they would have little reviews. All Music would do. I think all their database information, except for Bryan Adams, is still there. But All Music staffers would write little reviews about records, and they would put a little stamp on, this is the most important record by this artist. And that's how I learned about a lot of artists and got into a lot of music in the early 2000s and late 90s.
that's cool.
But I didn't know about this whole Bryan Adams thing until I just randomly saw it on YouTube one day in my YouTube algorithm, like Bryan Adams and All Music. I'm like, huh? I was like, this is so weird. He's scrubbed from their website.
Wow.
But it's against free speech, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can understand, like, if you do a review on YouTube and you're using clips of music, like, there can be a debate there about fair use. Like,
Sure.
clearly, you're talking about the music. We had some episode recently taken down. I think it was the Marigold episode. And it was taken down for a copyright thing. And I replied, I'm like, no, I don't even know what song or what clip was in the Marigold episode. It probably wasn't Marigold. I think Goatee and their parent company and stuff have, like, not relinquished the copyright, but they have cleared, like, the digital websites, like the Instagrams and the YouTubes and the Spotifys. They've
Right.
said, like, yeah, we'll take any copyright if you're just posting the whole song. But I've noticed that when I upload stuff to YouTube, like, everything automatically clears. It's like copyright identified, but you're clear to post this. So it wasn't a Relient K thing, but something else we had in the Marigold episode was copywritten and struck down, and now you can't get that episode on Spotify. But I'm like, whatever, I'm not going to fight it. Who cares?
Oh, was it the Beatles thing?
No, the Beatles thing I, like, cut out, so it wasn't the
Okay.
Beatles thing. The Beatles thing
Maybe
was
a Beach
it
Boys
was a
thing or
Christmas
something.
song. It was a Christmas
Yeah.
song we did. Anyway, I can understand when you're doing music reviews and you're using clips, that gets very nebulous about what's fair use. Like, yes, criticism is fair use, but still using the clip, sometimes it's not in the license for the song. They don't allow you to want to use clips. It's up to the copyright holder to say, will I allow you to use clips of our song in review? It's not like a legal thing. It's a guideline, and it's stuff that's been tested in the court. But there's no law that says you are absolutely allowed to use whatever you want, even if it's criticism. That just doesn't exist. It really is up to the copyright holders to block you or not if you're going to use their work in a critical review.
Wait, so is the whole Marigold episode potentially down?
Yeah, it
From
is.
everywhere?
No, just from Spotify.
Oh.
So just warning people. Anyway, my whole point was, like, but you can't. Bryan Adams can't complain to All Music for writing about him.
It's like, I don't want to have a
taking it down.
Wikipedia page. Bryan Adams, have said no Wikipedia. You can't tell people about
have
me.
probably. I'm sure people have tried to sue Wikipedia to have their Wikipedias taken down. And it's like, no, that's
Right.
not happening. Well, anyway, so Mother's Triumph. So thank you, Daniel, for calling.
Thank you, yeah.
I'm glad there were a number of people who were happy that we did City Escape by
Nice.
Sonic the Hedgehog. Nobody by Sonic the Hedgehog himself. I've seen pictures of him holding a guitar. I'm pretty sure it was him. So I'm glad that there was a response. Now, I was surprised to see, however, that 2 years ago when we did the Wiz Khalifa song "Speed Me Up" from the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie soundtrack, that episode had like 3 times as many listeners as the City Escape episode.
That's hilarious.
I
People
actually
probably coming being like, heck yeah, we're gonna listen to this podcast about like Wiz Khalifa. it's like our goobery Relient.
Well, I
podcast.
thought that people maybe, I don't know how, like the Wiz Khalifa episode did our high numbers. Like we have a number where everything kind of hedges off at, and then we kind of like bump that up when like when Relient K themselves acknowledge us and a lot of people discover us and listen to us, and
then immediately fall off. But the first Sonic the Hedgehog pod, it did really good numbers on its own, so people were thirsty for Sonic the Hedgehog content. And yet they didn't follow through in the numbers for what I assumed was the biggest Sonic the Hedgehog song, City Escape. Somehow maybe it was the Wiz Khalifa fans or the Suko the Child or what was Little Yachty.
Little Yachty, and there's a fourth one we're forgetting. But anyway, so I'm glad though our true fans, our true listeners have messaged me or left comments saying I'm so glad Sonic the Hedgehog content is back.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to Sonic the Hedgehog 3 because I'm only about halfway through this Knuckles show. I'm just like, just show me Knuckles. Just have Knuckles do stuff. I don't need to see this loser. This is the other thing. You said the Knuckles show is for kids. I'm like, is it?
Right.
Because
it's about,
most of the show is
human.
about the loser cop from the movies. The dorky cop. He is a loser. Like, that's his joke, is that he's the losery cop, and he's fine in small doses in those two movies that exist so far, but they built an entire show around him, and he gets a lot of screen time, and a lot of it is about him being this like faded millennial. Like, he takes Knuckles back to his home, and he's like hanging out in his room, and he's got all these 80s and 90s movie posters, and he's showing him his CDRs. I'm like, kids don't care about this stuff.
Oh, no, that guy's supposed to be like our age? That's so depressing. I don't know what age I assumed he was, but that just makes me sad.
And we talk about this all the time. When you and I were kids, and when millennials were kids, we were constantly shown in our media how great the 60s were, because the people writing the shows at the time were boomers, and it was constant. All the reference points were the 60s. So now, not all, but many of shows are being written by elder millennials, so now they're putting their stuff into shows, but I'm just like, this is lame. And I'm not above. I am sometimes above. I sometimes feel like I want to be above just mindless, nostalgic chatter. But I really am. I'm like,
Danny, that is this podcast.
I understand, but I think I'm looking at it with like a real kind of like reverence and like this is something, these Relient K songs are something we've enjoyed. Let's like look at them. But when we're looking at a Relient K song, we're actually looking like, why is this relevant now? Why is this still good now? Whereas a lot of like mindless nostalgia chatter is like, remember back then, remember that, why isn't that anymore? So many video store documentaries in the world now. Like, yes, I get it. I really miss video stores. We actually talked about it last week. You mentioned Eddie Brandt's closing, and I was like so upset when Eddie Brandt's closed during the pandemic. I loved that video store still was around, and it made me happy. But I was happy to be there then. I think about my old video stores, but I don't like live in the world of just thinking about video stores then. Like, I want to, if video stores were around now, I'd want to rent new movies. I wouldn't just go to video stores and just rent.
We do that. We have a video store.
There are still a handful of video stores here, but I'm just saying, like, to me, if nostalgia, I don't know. It's just like, it's so lame. It was just lame. I guess I should focus on my point about the Knuckles show. It's just so lame because here's this loser guy who's friends with Knuckles, and he's just like, oh, like every joke is, oh, did you just say that? And then he's like, check out my cool CDRs and my cool music. I'm like, this is just so stupid. It's just really lame. And I'm like, kids aren't going to care about this.
You know what kids just want to care about? Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes.
Their kids love Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes. Let's move on. Let's talk about what we're really here to talk about. Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes. Big popular band with the kids. Gen Z, Gen Alpha love. They're constantly doing. They love
the Mother's Triumph.
They're doing the Mother's Triumph.
They are their Mother's Triumph.
They're doing the Mother's Triumph challenge on TikTok.
That's right.
where you climb up.
We do have 2 TikToks this week.
Oh, we do? Okay, good.
Wait. Am I right? Am I wrong? Hold on. Now I have to double check myself. Yes, there are 2 TikToks this week.
Okay.
So these lyrics totally give mountaintop vibes.
Yes.
They're it's like almost like a sister song.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. I thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Because
both about his Matt Thiessen's wife at the time.
Wind Up Bird, the Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes album, which came out the year after.
Oh.
I have to look it up. Air for Free and Wind Up Bird are basically complementary albums. They're written, and we've talked about this in previous Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes episodes, but Winder Up Bird, hold on. I'm trying to just go to Wind Up Bird on Spotify so I can see. 2018. So 2 years out. This came out 2 years after Air for Free. They're complementary albums, and I wouldn't think of it this way. It was actually Josh from the Reliable J podcast who just got married. Congratulations, Josh! Congrats. He hasn't been around as much over this podcast or anything, but he said to me, I don't know if he said it in an episode or he said to me privately in a discussion at some point, but he mentioned how Wind Up Bird is kind of a follow-up to Air for Free, because they're both written around the time of his marriage. And I think it's probably similar to what I've realized about the Thiessen songs on Bird and the B-Sides, Nashville, Tennessee EP. The Thiessen songs on the Nashville, Tennessee EP and Forget Not Slow Down. Those are complementary to each other. Those songs are about the same relationship and the same story. And Air for Free and Wind Up Bird are also about the same. All those songs are about the same time in Matt Thiessen's life, to a point that I wonder if, and I kind of believe without proof, but I just kind of have faith that this is true, that probably a lot of material from Wind Up Bird and from Air for Free could have been interchangeable up to a point. I feel like we've definitely talked about this, that I think, with no proof, but I just kind of assume that when Matt Thiessen sits down to write a song, he's probably not sitting down and saying, let me write a Relient K song.
Right.
With the exception being maybe when they're currently working on the next Relient K song, when that is the project in mind. Yeah, he's saying, I gotta write a song for Relient K. But on his spare time when he's writing songs, and we know he's constantly writing songs, I doubt he's writing songs and saying, I will sit down and I will write a Relient K song. I feel like the more likely thing, especially from what I've heard about other songwriters in general, is that you sit down, you write a song, and as you write the song reveals itself, and as he's writing it, he might say, well, this is feeling like a Relient K song. Well, this is feeling like an Earthquake song. Well, this is feeling like some project that the world at large doesn't know about yet. Oh, well, this is feeling like a song I could put in a drawer and keep in mind if I ever get a gig writing for someone else's album.
Right.
I think Matt Thiessen probably writes in that way. He's constantly writing songs. He probably has a big songbook, and he can probably just pull from that no matter what project he's working on. And like I said, the song reveals itself. Most artists the talk about how the art reveals its own identity. So I think that's the way that Matt Thiessen writes, because when I look at when you listen to the lyrics of Air for Free, and when you really pay attention to the lyrics of Wind Up Bird, which I admit is sometimes hard to do because I'm not as in tune to this style of music, I just perceive the lyrics of like a rock song a lot easier than I perceive the lyrics of like a slow melodic harmonious folk song. But when you pay attention to the lyrics of both albums, you kind of see that they're singing about the same relationship. They're singing about his marriage at the time. What Josh actually told us at some point was he thinks that Air for Free is about Matt Thiessen's marriage and that Wind Up Bird is about his divorce. Because the other thing is that around the time of 2018-ish, they were getting divorced, right? They were married around, I don't know the dates. I took this class. I took this version of the history class because I told I wouldn't have to memorize dates. But whenever Matt Thiessen and his wife were married was sometime around 2014, 2015-ish. and they probably I think they got divorced around 2018, or they got divorced before we started this podcast. Because
we had no idea.
Because when we first started this podcast, they were divorced, and we had no idea. And that was by design, because it turned out that they had just kind of like kept their divorce, not a secret, but out of the public eye.
Yeah.
They kept it quiet. It wasn't the public's information to have. But then it was clear when like people would be aware of their whereabouts in social media or whatever, that they weren't together anymore. And then eventually like the court blotter from Nashville was discovered, and it says like it's like court dates, courtroom happenings today, and one of them listed was the divorce between Thiessen and what was her last name?
Emily, I think, right?
Yeah. It's a Thiessen v. Wright divorce hearing. So it's like, oh, they got divorced. And now, so it wasn't on their Wikipedia. It wasn't on Matt Thiessen's Wikipedia under relationships when we started this podcast. But they were already divorced, and now they're divorced. So it also kind of like... So, I have a lot to say about this song. To be honest.
Well, what I was going to say when I said gives mountaintop vibes, another thing that I think is interesting, they're both about family trips, only Mother's Triumph is about a family trip with her family in Connecticut, and whereas Mountaintop is about a family trip or a trip to visit family from his side in Maine. Right. So both New England as well.
Yeah.
Which I think is kind of fun. Like, I think it's sort of like they're different sides of a seesaw. Like, I think it's just fun.
Yeah. I did notice the New England connection. So apparently her family's from Connecticut, and I recall now that his family's from Maine. He has family in Maine. Isn't it his uncle? Isn't it Matt Thiessen's uncle? Like I
don't remember who. I was just going off lyrics. I don't remember who either.
I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong. I'm not beholden to information about Relient K. Don't expect me to know much about Relient K. All I have is a podcast about them. But I'm pretty sure it's his uncle who did the painting for Forget Not Slow Down is from Maine. That side of his family is from Maine. Yes, because when we went to see them in Boston,
that's right.
That family was there up in the balcony, and he called them out and he said, "Hey, my family from Maine is here. My aunt, whose husband painted the painting from Forget Not Slow Down is here." So yes, they were from Maine. So yeah, like this song is about, I guess when I first would hear this song, and like I said, slow, easy listening, melodic folk album, it's hard for and the lyrics in this album are largely more abstract than a Relient K album.
Right, and I think that's definitely something that he takes into account when he's like working on a song and then sets it aside. If you look at like Jefferson Airplane and like other songs that were originally pegged as Thiessen and the Earthquakes songs that he just ended up making Relient K songs.
Right. So because this song's a little bit more abstract, and because I, by admission, have listened to this album so much less than any other Relient K album or Relient K related album, I didn't know what the Mother's Triumph was, and I kind of thought the proper noun was, I want to tell the world about your triumph, Mother, right? It's not what it is. I don't want to spoil the song for anyone who has your own reading of the song, but it's like, who is the your mother? I want to tell the world about your mother's triumph. Who is the your? Who's the proper noun? If the your is the mother, I guess you could, because you can read that sentence two different ways. Despite what Matt Thiessen wrote, I'm just saying, if someone hears the phrase, I want to tell the world about your mother's triumph, it's like, what's the your? Because if I want to tell the world, if I'm looking at you, Jessica, and I say, I want to tell the world about your mother's triumph.
You're talking about my mom, your mother-in-law.
No, but I'm talking about you. Your mother, you have triumph as a mother.
Oh.
I want to tell the world about your... Like, is mother's triumph itself a noun? I wonder if anyone else has read it this way. I kind of accidentally read it just seeing the phrase mother's triumph as mother's triumph is the noun. Mother's triumph is the single idea. You, as the mother, have a triumph. I want to tell the world about your triumph, Mother.
Yeah, my triumph just woke up.
He did. Cooper just woke up from his nap. Are you following what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Yeah,
it's either like, I want to tell the world about it's one of two things.
Well, since they're talking about carving their initials in the trees and stuff, I don't think his initials.
I didn't pay that close attention to the song before this week. It's not, but I first assumed this when I saw the title. I want to tell the world about your triumph, mother, but it is in fact, I want to tell the world about the triumph of your mother. That's what it is. It's the second one, because he's really singing this by proxy through his wife. I know I'm overthinking it, but that's kind of the job. Jessica just kind of shook her head.
No, I just got hung up on the fact that something about the way you said mother that first time was very Norman Bates.
It was very...
So I was...
Norman Bates?
Yeah.
Mother!
Yeah, it's a little thrown.
Blood! Oh no!
What?
I'm gonna do a Gus Van Sant style remake of. We should watch Psycho for Mother's Day. Let's do a Gus Van Sant style remake of Psycho. Except Norman Bates the whole time he's gonna talk about my. He's gonna talk about my distraught virgin character voice. I do this character around the house sometimes. Oh no! Why'd you make me do that? Like we're watching a movie or something, and like some guy is like a loser or some whatever. And I'm always like, "Oh no!" Cooper just gave me a look. Anyway,
you were nice and asleep. Why don't you go back to sleep, my little love?
So anyway, so the song is about his wife, and she is the mother's triumph, right? I want to tell the world about your mother's triumph. You, my wife, are the triumph of your mother. He raised an amazing lady.
Yes, he did.
But the song is also kind of, it's like a celebration of both. It's a celebration about his wife and his mother, because he's also focusing on all of these places that are owned by the mother, his mother-in-law. And I have some live clips where he says the song is about my mother-in-law. It's really about his wife, but it's about his wife by way of his mother-in-law.
There's a line in there about, and this is going back to some of the abstract lyrics, there's a line in there about grandfather's ghost and then the fruit trees, and I've been playing a lot of Stardew Valley again since the 1.6 update came out recently, so that's like instantly where my mind went to when I heard those lyrics. Anybody who plays Stardew Valley out there gets it.
Of grandfather's ghost?
Yeah. It's a whole thing.
It makes me think of that chapter from Dragon Ball.
Also, since the 1.6 update of Dragon Ball came out,
where Goku is fighting all of these. Goku is fighting all these monsters. They're takeoff of classic monsters. But the last one is this like ghost guy, and it turns out to be his dead grandpa.
Danny just read through, and I don't know if this is your first time reading through all of them, but he's read through, like, all of the graphic novels in, like, a month. Less than.
Excuse me. I had never read, really. I'd only ever read the first saga of the original Dragon Ball. Mm-hmm. And I'd never really read the last saga of Dragon Ball Z. So I was like... I was getting curious to read, so I was like,
That's also what the little child character in one of them sounds like. Danny put on like a couple months ago, I don't know, one of them, and there's this little kid going
Gohan.
Like,
Young Gohan was like, no, Mr.
Lord.
Piccolo, I don't want to live in the woods. Anyway, I started watching the Dragon Ball anime, and I was like, the Dragon Ball Z, I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a lot easier if I just read the manga. I'm going to get the whole story. I'm going to get it in the best version by reading the manga and not watching 400 episodes of anime from Dragon Ball up through Dragon Ball Z. I'm not going to be able to catch up. Because when I saw Dragon Ball Z on TV as a kid, I just saw the episodes I saw. I'd never seen all of Dragon Ball Z. So anyway... I had been obsessed with Dragon Ball, but I'm all caught up now. I've read the whole thing from the original Dragon Ball comics all the way up through what you think of as Dragon Ball Z, but it's technically still Dragon Ball, and then I caught up on all the Dragon Ball Super manga as well.
Whoa, did they give you some sort of, like, weeb award for that, Danny?
No.
Ooh, what's that smell? Smells like...
Wait. I'll play it. Hold on. Who knows this meme? Here it is.
What's that smell? You smell that? It smells like a fucking weeb. Ugh.
It's some game. It's some click adventure, and she's like a fairy anime girl, and she pops into the game. It's like a text. It's like a.
You're showing me this like I haven't seen this meme before.
I know, but it's like a self-aware game. It's like, what's that smell? Smell that? Smells like a fucking weeb. Well, anyway, you want to take our break?
We're not going to keep talking about the song?
Let's talk about the song.
I'm like, what
all
a
I'm
weird
thinking
place to
about
break.
now is Dragon Ball.
So you were talking about, to bring us back into it, you were talking about the drums when we were listening to the song together in the car earlier today. You were convinced that you think this is a drum machine. And I thought that the hi-hat sounded really legit and that the snare just sounds really loose. I think that they are real drums, but you thought, well, okay, if they are real, then maybe it's just compressed. And I agree. I do think the drums sound a little compressed or something.
It's not that I was convinced that they're programmed drums. It's just that when the drum beat first kicks in, it's so rigorous and the beat is so fast that it sounds like a drum machine to me.
I mean, this is not a
the
Mandy Moore song. This is a Matt Thiessen The Earthquakes song.
As the song continues, I'm like, oh, no, these drums are sounding like regular drums. It's just something about the way that those drums first kick in. It just sounds so drum machine to me. Which doesn't make a lot of sense. Is there any programming on this album? There's programming all over Air for Free. Yeah, it sounds real. It sounds real. Just the way it kicks in, and it's just that it's the kind of beat that a very common drum machine would have, and they do sound very compressed. So it just sounds like drum machine. It's probably because I'm a They Might Be Giants fan, and like I found out so much of their drumming throughout their early albums was programmed, and I'm like, it was?
Oh, wow.
Even if it's like a real sample, or even if they make the sample in the studio, like so much of their drumming is often programmed. I mean, a lot of their later
it's
drumming.
just two of them, so.
Yeah, but a lot of also like their last 20 years, their last 25, 30 years out of 40 years as a band has been with a real full band. But like when I'm listening to This Might Be a Podcast and they talk about what's programmed drumming, I'm like, that was programmed drumming? Like I can't tell. Or like they'll be like, here's something on Apollo 18, like this drum fill is impossible for a human being to play. I'm like, it is? Like I don't know. So now I'm just like, I just don't trust anything. And just it's not the drum beat in this is that drum beat.
That's my favorite part of this song is when it goes.
It doesn't go, and then it goes. It's so rigorous, and it is a drum beat like rhythm, and yet it sounds like it's a real drum. I wish we could check, but the credits to this album are only available on the very difficult to get vinyl, which someone did scan to us one time. Maybe after our break I'll go look for it, but I'm not going to be able to look for it right now. The credits to this album are only available on the vinyl. We bought a CD hoping that the credits would be in there, but they weren't. Thanks a lot.
So odd.
Matthew
like,
Thiessen and the Earthquakes.
Why?
I don't know.
Make everything, like, all your pamphlets, your inserts, the same across the board.
Is it because CDs don't make as much money, so they're like, hey, let's save some money and not print the credits? Anyway,
Save a tree.
This is one of the peppier songs on the album, right?
It is, yeah.
Is it the?
Do you like how twee this song is? It's very twee with the like. He's like the opening lyrics. He's like all of the animals, like.
Yeah, it brings to mind woodland forests.
Yeah,
all of the little animals out in the woods, and yeah, very twee. I mean, the whole album's twee, but like also this song is like. I feel like you could transpose this into a ska song very easily. There's a very pick it up nature to the rhythm of this song, and I was like, Jessica and I were in the car.
You've got horns on this album, so
yes, you do, and we have word from the horn player.
That's right.
Of this song in a little bit. He sent us a recorded message.
We've got to do that before the break.
We'll do that before the break. So. This song is just, it's a little, I think it's probably got the fastest tempo on the album, when Jessica and I were in the car earlier today, we were like, well, let's get a feeling again for the album as a whole. So we kind of skipped around the album, and I'm like, yeah, I think this is like the most upbeat. There are some upbeat numbers on the album, but this is like the most upbeat on the album. And lyrically, like the whole thing is very hopeful and bright. I'm just saying, like, strictly off of the music, like this is the most upbeat song I feel like that I can think of on the album, on an album that I do not know as well as many other albums. Yeah, the drums just feel a little artificial, but I guess that they're not. And it's funny. There's a point in the song where Thiessen's vocals kind of break a little bit. Have you noticed that?
Oh, no, I didn't notice that.
So I found it. It's about a minute 30 into the song. It's this point. It wavers. I don't know if that's a mistake, and it was kind of human and interesting, so they decided to keep it. It's not a break exactly, but it is a wavering. I promise you. Like, it's just a little wait. Do you hear that?
Yeah, it's more of an emotional, like, sort
yeah,
of
it's
thing,
like an
I think.
emotional take that they kept. I definitely don't consider it a mistake, but it was something that they kept, which when I think about Relient K's second and third album and how they remastered it in the gold version and removed a lot of humanity,
Right, yeah.
like a lot of the subtle humanity, like the feeling of the hands running up and down the strings,
Right.
they edited those out and they compressed things down and they shined everything up in a way that made it feel less vibrant and pop punky and more glossy. This album is like deliberately trying to make you feel like you're in the woods with Matt Thiessen, so you're hearing the fingers up and down the fretboard, and then this little moment, minute 30 in, where his voice kind of wavers and they leave that in. I feel like that was a stylistic choice. What else? So, being that this song is about his wife, his same relationship, sung about an Air for Free, the same kind, a similar trip to Mountaintop. What I mentioned before was that, by doing this podcast, I realized, everybody knows Forget Not Slow Down is about the breakup of that previous relationship from the time of Forget Not Slow Down. What I realized from doing this podcast is that Matt Thiessen's original songs on the Nashville, Tennessee EP, Bird and the B-Sides, are about that same engagement from that other relationship as things were trying to be worked out and as they kind of broke up. So there are songs on there like At Least We Made It This Far that are saying like, we're making it this far, we're going to make it, we're going to pull out through this difficulty in our relationship. And then by the time of Forget Not Slow Down, things have broken up and things haven't worked out. You're kind of getting the opposite here, like not quite the opposite, because you get Air for Free, which are songs about his relationship and his maturing, and he's married now. But then on Wind Up Bird, you still have songs left over from Air for Free time, just 2 years before, where he's married and with his wife. And this is a song about him still being with her. It's not a song about, having to grow up and stop being Peter Pan and outrun the shadow and be a man. It's about him still being married to her and feeling like things are working out and they're together, which is kind of sad. But I also think that's the magic of songwriting and music, is that, yes, their marriage didn't work out, and this song that we're talking about is clearly written about celebrating her and celebrating his love of his wife and his love of her family that's now his family, right? At the time, we don't know the specifics. I do not care about the specifics of if they're all still in touch. It doesn't matter. But they all were together in a family for sure at that time. And this song is celebrating that moment in life. And yet by the time this album comes out, Wind Up Bird, that seems to have dissolved. That fact seems to have dissolved. But you can't have it any other way. All you can do is write songs about the things you believe in the moment and things that you feel in the moment, and things may change, but that doesn't matter because the song is celebrating that moment, right? Like so you can look at it as sad, or you can look at it, but I don't see it that way. I just see it as like this song will always be this moment, even if that moment did or didn't work out in the way. And that's how a lot of music works. So many songs are most love songs, most love songs, aside from love songs that are just about the general idea of love, where the writer is just writing about the general idea of love. Most songs that are specifically about a singer and or a songwriter writing to a specific love, most of them aren't together anymore. I would say by law of averages, most love songs that are specific love songs didn't end up working out. I'm sure many of them did, but not most of them. And that's just how art and songwriting works. Like, things change. All you can do is freeze a moment in time and freeze an emotion in time.
That's beautiful.
If you say so. What else do you think about this song? I'm listening to more of it. Right, because he says, like, this will last forever if we never dare let it fade. So he says in a live video or two that I found, like, this song is about my mother-in-law, but really he's singing about his wife. And he's like, this will last forever if we never let it fade. Well, it did fade, but that doesn't matter. In the moment, you believe, and you can't not believe that it's going to work out. If you have any doubt, then it definitely isn't going to work out. But just because things don't work out isn't because you didn't believe enough. Like, you believed as much as you could, and sometimes belief itself isn't enough. There are other factors that break up relationships. Just saying. Anyway. So we do have... Did you have any other notes on the song? We do have something to play from Robert Gaye, who played trumpet on this album and then toured during the Owl City Cinema Tour or something like that Matthew Thiessen The Earthquakes opened for.
Oh, nice.
So here is Robert talking about... I sent him a message and I said, do you have any notes on your experiences with this song, both on the album and live? And this is Robert's own words. He sent us a video. He was working at the Met Gala. I don't know in what capacity.
Oh, wow.
But when I texted him, he's like, hey, text me back tomorrow morning because I'm not going to remember to send you information right now because I'm at work. And I'm like, oh, okay. I had no idea where he was. And then I think he'll say it here.
Hello. So I'm in Central Park. We're just outside of it, right before work. It's been a busy week at the Met Gala. So I was asked about my memories of Mother's Triumph. I really like that Earthquake song, and I have a lot of memories of it. It was a regular in the set, definitely played at every Earthquake show that we did. I didn't sing on the recording. I played trumpet on the recording, but then live I did do the harmonies, and so it was a fun challenge to match Matt's voice, match those harmonies, buried in the snow, stuff like that. Yeah, it was really fun to play off of Matt's voice. The trumpet work, it starts out very simple with some swells, and then by the last time, the last chorus, the horn line is really developed very nicely, and I really like that about the song. It went over well with audiences too. It seemed like they always appreciated that point of the song, and just like the whole ride of the song. Another thing that I think about with Mother's Triumph is being Nashville based. Right now I'm in New York, but in Nashville there's this bar called Mother's Ruin, and I know Matt loves wordplay, and I don't remember if he told me this directly or if I just assumed it, but I always thought of the song as sort of a play on words, commentary about, oh no, you're not your mother's ruin, you're your mother's triumph. And it's I've always thought of the song as someone that you have loved, have been close to, whether or not you're together forever or not. It's like, man, thank your mom for me. She raised a good kid. You are your mother's triumph. It's a credit to your parents. It's a credit to your mom. She raised a good one. So I think it's a really beautiful, heartfelt song, a very loving song. And yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it.
Yeah, this song's really about say hi to your mother for me. Hey, say hi to your
Oh my
mother
gosh,
for me.
I love that. That was such great insight.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wonder the mother's ruin.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I didn't think about this, but is the phrase "mother's triumph"? I mean, it definitely feels proprietary to me. It feels proprietary to this album. I don't think I ever heard the phrase "mother's triumph."
I actually looked it
before.
up. I did that as a little like mini deep dive as well. Does not show up in a lot of places, though. There is a book from 1895 called "A Waif, a Prince, or a Mother's Triumph" by W.T. Andrews. And it's actually a waif, a prince, or a mother's triumph, an Egyptian story of fiction and fact. So, I don't think that was one of the inspirations for this song, but just saying, it's out there.
No, I definitely think that the phrase "mother's triumph," if it has been spoken in English before this song, is not like a colloquial, common turn of phrase.
Right.
It's not something you hear a lot. I feel like Robert's theory that maybe he passed by,
Totally.
maybe Thiessen passed by or went to the Mother's Ruin enough, and that he kind of like was like, oh, Mother's Ruin is a fun name for a bar, but I want to sing about a mother's triumph. He just wanted to take, which is a very common Relient K, Matt Thiessen songwriting thing, to take sort of dispirited, worrisome things and find the hope in them. So that makes a lot of sense if he sees the phrase "mother's ruin." And I feel like "mother's ruin" might be a more common turn of phrase. It's about like something that's gonna, let me look that up. I feel like I have
was
heard.
just pulling my phone to do the same thing.
I feel like I have heard the phrase or a similar phrase like "mother's ruin" more often, like a thing that's gonna ruin your child.
There's a Mother's Ruin in Chicago, one in New York, the Nashville one.
Yes, "mother's ruin" was a phrase from the time of the temperance movement.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Well, why was gin
Good Lord.
nicknamed Mother's Ruin? Gin, specifically, was nicknamed Mother's Ruin.
I'm seeing this thing. It says, what is meant by Mother's Ruin? Is people also ask on Google. The gin obsession was blamed for misery, rising crime, madness, higher death rates, and falling birth rates. Gin joints allowed women to drink alongside men for the first time, and it is thought that this led many women to neglect their children and turn to prostitution.
Oh, wow.
Hence, gin becoming known as Mother's Ruin.
Okay.
Interesting.
See, now I would hear the phrase "mother's ruin," and again, just like how I heard the phrase "mother's triumph," and I thought it was like, I want the whole world to know about your triumph, mother. I thought it was the mother being addressed. I thought the opposite of the phrase "mother's ruin."
Right.
I thought it was, here's alcohol and it's ruined your child, and now the mother is sad. But no, it's the opposite. It's saying alcohol has ruined the mother, and she's neglected her children and turned to prostitution. So gin is nicknamed Mother's Ruin from back in like the early-ish, from like 100 years ago or something, like leading to the temperance movement. That's interesting. So yeah, it's fun here. Like Mother's Ruin is something that's very a phrase that is definitely well known, but the opposite of that, Mother's Triumph, is just not part of the language. It's not part of the lexicon. And I guess Thiessen at some point was just like, why don't we make a Mother's Triumph part of the lexicon and not just the Mother's Ruin? Like, what's the triumph for a mother? Now we know gin will ruin your motherhood. Jessica, don't you dare drink gin.
Oh, I
don't
will stay
you
away.
you stay away from that Ryan Reynolds aviation gin.
Yeah.
You know what Ryan Reynolds is trying to do now? He's trying to turn mothers against their children.
Yeah, because like I put it in, and I know that sometimes Google just does like, they'll give you the search results they think you want first, but like the first thing that comes up is the genius for Thiessen The Earthquakes, then followed by Foxborough.moms73.com Triumph models and prices from Foxborough, Massachusetts dealer. So if you want a motorcycle.
Halfway between Connecticut. and Maine, where the two songs we talked about this week
There you
are
go.
set. What
Yeah, a
does
lot of
gin-
Triumph motorcycle stuff.
I did see a bunch of that. What does gin do to a woman's weight loss? Gin has fewer calories as compared to other alcoholic beverages, making it a healthier choice for those watching their weight. So
boy.
Gin is healthy, ladies. Go out there and have some gin.
Oh no.
This is from an article.
It's just less fattening. That's all. Less sugars and whatnot.
This is from an article by food.ndtv.com said, Gin not sin. 5 surprising health benefits of gin you may not know.
That feels like a lie.
Well.
That feels like it was planted by Big Gin.
All right. Well, now we'll take our break. I'll go switch the laundry, and we'll be back
Sounds like a plan.
after this. Thanks very much for listening to Sadie Hawkins Pod, and we want to take a moment to give an extra special thanks to our paid patrons, who include Luke, Maggie, Matthew, Bjorn, Isaac, Kindle, Joshua, Daniel, Jay, Michael, Samantha, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, and Tucker.
If you join at any paid level on Patreon, you'll receive 2 bonus episodes every month and instant access to almost 5 years of bonus episodes, including us reading through every chapter of the Complex Infrastructure book, the K is for Karaoke songs, other projects, and works related to Relient K, and many other subjects.
And exciting news is that we have lowered the cost of the tiers at our Patreon. What was previously $10 and $5 are now $8 and $3. At both tiers, you get every bonus episode, and at the $8 tier, you get our uncensored, unbleeped episodes.
Fuck yeah!
So join now at patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Per usual, a bunch of sad stuff comes up when you put in Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes into Google.
What?
Add Mother's Triumph and
What?
Yeah, very, very upsetting about like earthquake damage and whatnot.
Oh.
And then you add Mother in, and it's very sad. Anyways,
Oh.
it's not fun to Google Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes, to be perfectly
But why is it just dropping the Matthew Thiessen part?
Yeah, it gives you earthquake stuff. The same thing happened when I went over to like TikTok because they didn't come up in my deep dive. So I was like, well, let me just go to TikTok to look for the TikToks and, you know, search on sounds or whatever. But if you don't put it in sounds, then anyway, there's one genius note at the bottom, not an annotation, just a note at the bottom of here. And it says, the writer talks through the simple pleasures he experiences in his relationship between his wife and his mother-in-law.
Okay.
And that's a note.
That's it? Is that all you have?
No.
Okay.
There's a Reddit thread as well. What do y'all think about MT and the Earthquakes album from last year? And I'm not sure if we went over this when we did either Man of Stone or what was the other song we did?
Who knows? Hey, if you out there know what songs from Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes we previously talked about, we'd love to know. We talked about Dude. We definitely talked about Dude. Did we talk about Daydream? I think we talked about Dude and Daydream.
Dude and Daydream.
I could be
did
wrong.
Did we not do Man of Stone?
Yeah, we did Man of Stone. We didn't.
Oh, we done 3 of them?
You said Man of Stone, didn't you? So
Yeah.
I just said, yeah, we did.
So we
Man
did
of
3.
Yeah, I
Oh,
guess.
okay. Anyway, so I'm just
I
gonna.
guess.
This is a whole discussion.
I hope we didn't do this song previously.
We didn't. From
Lord knows
r/Reliant K from 5 years ago. Tell Me About It said, what do y'all think about the MT and the Earthquakes album from last year? I'm genuinely interested because I heard nobody talking about this when it came out. To me, it was a little disappointing compared to the past Relient K albums, but I can totally appreciate it for being different and having a more acoustic/natural sound. I still enjoy quite a few songs here. Mother's Triumph, Oedipus, I'm Gonna Cry, etc. And then there's a lot of responses here, so I'm just going to kind of scroll through and see if I find any that talk about Mother's Triumph specifically.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess I should have done this ahead of time. No one else specifically mentions Mother's Triumph, but you
That's
can go
all right.
over. This thread exists if you're interested. Also on Setlist FM, you can check out how often this song was played on that tour that you mentioned earlier, Dan.
Right.
And then we're back over to the Merlot 23 blog that comes up. Merlot 23 comes up quite a bit. But this one, and I'm just going to talk about this song like I did. I also mentioned this in the Man of Stone episode, I believe. Where this person grades it, and then it says Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes, Wind Up Bird, twee, and then in parentheses, like tweet pop. They gave this grade a B-. And then just to refresh your memories, they say, in brief, it's actually not that far of a stylistic leap from some of the other more mellow material on Relient K's latest album to their lead singer solo album. While I enjoy clever indie, Baroque pop arrangements and witty wordplay, I have to admit that only a handful of Thiessen's songs on this album continue to stand out in my mind, beyond the initial novelty of hearing him do an acoustic record. And then I'm going to scroll down to what they have to say about this particular song.
Also, there's also electric guitar on this song. Like, there's a little bit of electric guitar right in the background. The acoustic guitar is forward. It's kind of like the reaction to this from some of these things you're mentioning are kind of like Collapsible Lung, where people will be like, Collapsible Lung is their electronic album. And then you listen to the album closely.
Right.
And you're like, no, this is guitar, bass, and drums. Right. It's just the form of the songs is such a it's in such a pop way that, and then there's a handful of songs with electronic elements that you're like, oh, that's their electronic album. This is a folk album for sure, but it's not, and it's a lot of acoustic it's a lot of acoustic guitar, but there's still elements in here that it's not I don't know if I call it an acoustic album. I guess it's mostly acoustic.
Oh boy, well we're about to hear what Merlot 23 has to say about Mother's Triumph.
Uh-oh.
I'm just now noticing that Todd Gummerman plays the organ on this song, and one or two others as well. What is this record a place of refuge and sanctuary for people who have been unceremoniously kicked out of Mute Math? You'd think the results would be far more interesting with that being the case. This is one of those songs where I'd say it is a 100% typical example of the sound of this record as a whole, yet try as I might, this is probably the one I remember the least about it. It's up-tempo, it's got more pleasant guitar picking and horns and stuff. It's got some nice lyrics about Thiessen going to his in-laws' house in Connecticut and gallivanting off into the forest with his wife and carving their names into a tree trunk and stuff. But when I think about what this all means to me, or how even listening to this song makes me feel, there's no there. I'm just sort of blank-faced. It's nice, but I've got no real reaction. And before you know it, we're already on to the next track anyway. Grade C+.
I mean, I get it. I think when you have an artist that, I don't agree with this person, but I get what they're saying. When you have an artist who has mostly played in who has mostly been a part of and marketed to and played to the room for the like teenage rock group, that a folky album feels like a left turn. Even if the audience technically has grown up and matured, this is still probably not music they're used to listening to. I have listened to music like this, but I don't actively. So when I have heard this album, and I've already admitted in this episode that I don't listen to this album that much, it washes over me. It is difficult to sort of like feel a character for every song when it's not a style of music that you're not literate in.
Right.
And I don't mean like you have to understand every nuance of every note and what's a quarter note. I don't like technical level. I just mean like being literate and being this being music you've heard of. People who hate or don't listen to pop punk music, hear pop punk music, and it all sounds the same to them. The first time I put in a Huntington's album, and I had heard the Huntingtons before I heard the Ramones, so I felt the same way pretty much when I heard the Ramones for the first time. But the first time I listened to a Huntingtons and a Ramones album, I was like, oh, this is just the same song for half an hour. But then your ear starts to become literate, in the music, and I'm like, oh no, every Ramones song, and by extension every Ramones core song, like the Huntingtons or whatever, their songs don't all sound the same. But I can understand, and people who don't like ska, and every ska song sounds the same. People who don't like classical music, and every classical music sounds the same. People who only put on jazz as background music, and it all just sounds like one big wash of the same music. I get it. So you don't feel emotionally connected to the form of the music. I feel like the writer isn't kind of seeing it that way or not admitting it that way. Like, I guess it's a benefit that we really spend like an hour or two on every individual song, because it allows us to really break into the song. But if we were doing just a Wind Up Bird album episode, I think we would probably land on a similar thing where we'd say like, oh, this album's nice, but I don't retain much of it.
Yeah.
Because
I definitely
that's
feel
the
that
form
way.
Yeah,
every time we listen to this album.
I felt the same way when I sat down and listened to Paul McCartney's Ram for the first time. I was like, I just listened to Ram and I don't remember any of it. I remember it was nice, but I don't remember one individual song. And then I listened to it more, and I'm like, but it's like considered Paul McCartney's like one of his best, if not his best solo album. And it's just like you have to, and it was actually derived, it was hated at the time. It was like seen as the most pretentious thing, and actually it like basically created the genre of indie pop. So it wasn't bad, it was just something people weren't ready for. And in a way, I think Relient K fans and people who people who are fans of the music around the scene of Relient K aren't ready for an album like this sometimes. I admit, I have also not been ready for an album like this sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a Jesus Freak Hideout review. Not sure if we went over this one before or not, but I'm just going to go over it again. And I'm only realizing right now that this album is 11 tracks and only 35 minutes and 6 seconds long. So that's a tight album. Street date, August 31st, 2018. And I love that if you go to Jesus Freak Hideout right now, Rock, Paper, Scissors, Metal, Volume 3 is out now. 34 free heavy songs available for download. Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes is a band name that has been floating around for at least 17 years at this point. My first recollection of the name is from the 2001's Happy Christmas Volume 3 compilation. The song I Hate Christmas Parties, later released on Relient K's own Christmas album, was first credited to Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes. Since that time, I, along with many other fans, have been eagerly awaiting an Earthquakes album to no avail. Most thought it would never happen, as it seemed Thiessen felt comfortable to do almost anything he wanted through Relient K after breaking away from the pop-punk sound. However, 2018 is the year that this project finally comes to fruition. What was anticipated as a piano-laden release is actually chock full of acoustic guitar and trumpet with very little piano included at all. The album opens up with Dude, which sort of seems like Man Part 2, with a very similar theme to the song Man from Relient K's Air for Free.
Right, we talked about that at the time. So that's why these two albums, Air for Free and Wind Up Bird, really are like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, he should have just released a double. Relient K should have just released a double album like Taylor Swift.
But it also, this makes sense as a Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes album.
It does. It's different. It's very different in its own.
It's not just
way. And I wonder if he was almost even like, okay, now's the time to do it, because maybe he was even shy to suddenly switch genres so heavily after the reception of Collapsible Lung.
And that was my understanding of Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes forever. Sorry, I want to get back to this in a second. And we've talked about this many times, but my understanding, because I heard about Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes early, in like 2001, 2002-ish, just talking to them in person, and them mentioning that Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes was a project that Thiessen was kicking around, and it seems like Relient K was this lark that was never intended to be like a band on MTV, was never intended, like they never expected to get past, I think from their own admission, like Hoops has talked about, like, this is, most people are in their crappy pop punk band in high school. It just happens to be the only band I've been in this whole time is my crappy pop punk band in high school. So I think even by the Relient K's own admission at the time and their own expectations, that they weren't necessarily expecting to break out of the mold of either the pop punk scene or the Christian youth group scene. Like, maybe they were like, yeah, look, we're going to play churches and youth groups for the first several years, but ultimately we hope to play Warped Tour and stuff. But we're just going to be a pop punk band forever. And eventually, Matt Thiessen has all these other musical interests that he wants to do, and that band is his serious band, Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes. But as Relient K starts taking more and more time and starts becoming more and more successful and starts to become a real band around the time Brian leaves and the Johns join, then Matt Thiessen realizes he can stretch what a Relient K song is with 5 score, starts to stretch what a Relient K song can do. Forget Not Slow Down certainly does. They experiment around with little genres, like almost as jokes, like hiding them as jokes, but really they're just stretching the idea of what a Relient K song can be with Bird and the B-sides. And so he realizes, I can do all these other things. Now you get to Air for Free, and there's songs on there. What was that song on? There's a song on Air for Free we talked about that's like basically about like him growing up, or maybe it was on this album, him growing up and realizing like the only thing I've done is be successful in this band. What else? I can't remember.
Was it Man or was it Dude?
It was Man or it was Dude. And he's like, I've been so lucky to chase my dreams and have my dreams chase me. Have my dreams chase me. There was a song, I can't remember, on one of these 2 albums, that was like, my dreams chased me. So he was super lucky.
I think it was Dude.
Yeah. So Thiessen was super lucky to have like the success of Relient K like chase him.
Yeah.
Right? And like if so I've lost my point, but anyway, about Thiessen the Earthquakes. So maybe Thiessen sits down around 2016, 2015 and starts writing a bunch of songs, a bunch of melodies, doesn't necessarily know what the genres of these melodies are going to be. The songs present themselves to him as he works on them. He brings these melodies to the band. At this point, John and John are out, but with Dave and the other and Townsend.
Well, was Dave even back by that point?
Dave recorded on Air for Free. At that point, it was really just. At that point, it was the short-lived duo era of just Matt and Matt being Air for Free. But the people who worked on the album anyway, Mark Lee Townsend, Dave was there to drum and stuff. Whoever helped shape those songs, I guess it was just Hoops and Mark Lee Townsend, maybe other people helped shape the songs of Air for Free into Relient K songs. So then he has these other songs and he feels like they're more earthy, they're more folky, and maybe at that point he's like, hey, look, I stretched what a Relient K song could be with Faking My Own Suicide and Sahara and Savannah and other songs that have stretched Deathbed and Jefferson Airplane. I've stretched what a Relient K song can be, but I don't think I can sit down and like write these Damien Gerardo style like folk songs, and I don't think I can say that's Relient K. So this comes back to your idea about a double album.
And maybe even to that effect, maybe, he looks at this, or Hoops looks at this, or they both look at this, and they just go, there's so much of this that's more like folky, earthy, like acoustic-y sort of thing. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of fun for Hoops to have here.
Right.
There's not a lot of fun pedal stuff and all that sort of thing. It's a lot of just, finger picking, whatever kind of Thiessen-y sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Here, guitar-wise.
But I do think you could take a bunch of the songs on Wind Up Bird and you could totally rework them. I don't have a pop-punk cover of Mother's Triumph, but I believe someone out there could easily make a pop-punk cover of Mother's Triumph. We've heard multiple like covers of here's an Air for Free or Collapsible Lung era song done in the style of We had one on our Replaceable Hips. We had a couple of those on our Replaceable Hips tribute album with our friends. And I've heard other ones like the Paper Rockets have done like, here's an Air for Free song done in the style of So I believe you could take the melodies and the form of some of these Wind Up Bird songs and make them like more like era songs if you wanted to. Maybe other ones you can't do that, but I think this song at least you could absolutely do that. So Yeah, maybe there are songs where Hoops is like, well, there's not much to do here to rock this up, to Relient K this up. Maybe this is your time to do Matthew Thiessen's and the Earthquakes album finally. And what Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes has shifted, just like how Relient K has shifted from 2005 up to 2016. What Relient K was artistically kept changing. Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes changed from what they initially were. When you hear those My Other Band compilation songs, and when you hear the demo of Jefferson Airplane, which was originally recorded as a Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes song, when you hear I Hate Christmas Parties, which was originally a Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes song, but kind of gets packaged as a Relient K song on the ultimate, the Let It Snow Baby Let It Reindeer, like, what Thiessen and the Earthquakes was changed.
Yeah, for sure. I was just reading ahead because this is a rather lengthy review.
That's fine.
And I was just trying to see if we have anything in here where they note specifically this song. And I don't think that they do. Oh, here we go. So I'm going to skip down a little bit. Mother's Triumph continues the album in a very positive direction and was written for Matt's mother-in-law. So they don't have a lot to say about that. They do note that possibly the strongest song on the album is Higher Power, and that they think that Climb features Thiessen in one of his best vocal performances on the album. So then I'm just going to skip forward to the outro. So is Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes debut and very possibly lone album worth the 17-year wait? The answer is a resounding yes. While stylistically it's nothing like I ever imagined, Matt Thiessen coupled with Ellie Schmidley really knock it out of the park. The music has an interesting folk rock and jazz fusion and is undeniably fun to listen to from top to bottom. The guitars and vocals are very folksy, but when the trumpet cuts through this mix, the music gets its shade of jazz that blends wonderfully. Wind Up Bird is an album of whimsy and fun that you can't help but listen to over and over again. Since this album arrived in my mailbox, I have barely listened to anything else. Mute Mouse Darren King did a phenomenal job producing the album as well. A couple of oddities here and there keep it from being a perfect album for this reviewer, but it's a remarkable album overall. I cannot recommend listening to this one enough. And then, before I get to TikToks, which is the last thing that I have, Ear to the Ground's editor picked this as their number 3 album of 2018.
Rears to the ground?
Ears to the ground. Ear to the ground.
Rears on the ground.
One of my favorite bands of all time is Thiessen's Relient K, so when I found out about this other, quote-unquote other band, I was thrilled. The album did not disappoint. I can see why the songs deserve their own project. They explore other textures of Thiessen's songwriting palette. The Beach Boys harmonies and intricate chord changes are still there, but it has more of a pop rock sensibility rather than the more punk style of Relient K.
I say so.
I really appreciate the hooky track Forest, but really there are half a dozen killer tracks on this album. It could have easily been album of the year for me. Alrighty. Their album of the year was Jeremy Messersmith, Late Stage Capitalism.
All right.
Sure. I'm not familiar. They also mention Beach Boys harmonies in this as well. So there's that. And then our TikToks.
Oh boy, I forgot.
That's right, which I will pass the phone over to you since the video is your portion of the podcast. There you are.
So there are 2 TikToks. Let's see. The first one. But I'm gonna toss it over to Biz because when you scored on that break, that's just your For You page.
I was gonna say this is hockey.
It didn't properly open. Oh, it keeps sending me to no.
See if it'll just let it play in the browser.
It won't. It keeps trying to go to the app. I think we've had this issue before. I think it's because, what are you on? You're on Safari, right?
Yeah.
You got to go to DuckDuckGo because DuckDuckGo blocks the need to open on another in another app. So I'm moving to DuckDuckGo. Nope, and it still wants to open. See, what it does is I click the TikTok on the webpage, and then it goes to the App Store, and it says download TikTok, and it's like, well, you already have
and then
TikTok
it's like
downloaded.
just hit open.
So just all we need.
I had that issue as well.
I know what to do. I would search the song
Yeah.
and sounds on your app, and then we'll find it. You can stop recording your screen, by the way. It's just I did that.
Oh.
When we do video,
Right.
I record the screen so that I have an easy reference to what audio in the video we already did. A little peek behind the curtain. But I was recording your screen and nothing happened while your screen was being recorded.
There you go. Now I've pulled it up for you.
Now I'll record the screen.
Sorry, I will prep that for you in the future.
All right. Let me delete that one screen recording while I'm thinking. I'll do it in a minute.
I was going to say,
Okay.
you're recording now.
Whoops, I turned on your flashlight instead of recording your screen.
I already recorded the screen for you.
Oh, thank you.
I already set it up. It's
All
going.
right.
You're good.
It's going. I got it going again. Okay, here we go. So, Douglas Bauer on 5/1 upload. This is a like perennials. Like, what do you not?
Those are succulents.
Succulents. It's just a big. It's
thousands of succulents.
It's just a giant green room filled with tables and tables of succulents, and I guess they're delivering them. Building. The note says underneath. Building living wall panels. Hashtag
cool.
succulent. Hashtag succulent lover. Hashtag succulents. Hashtag succulents of TikTok. Wait. Hashtag succulent soft TikTok. I think that's what it says. Get it?
Yes.
I read it wrong. Horticulture, planting, lots of hashtags. So it's just a giant factory, not factory, but a giant green room. Like the size of a basketball court. With tons and tons of succulents. Very nice. And then I guess it cuts to them, like, taking them to because then they're outside a house, and they have, like, a shelf in the wall outside the house where they're putting the succulents into this, like, this...
That's super cool.
Thing on the wall that puts the succulents all along the wall. Well, that's fun. Then Kevin in 2023, it's just Kevin kind of air drumming.
Does a little like wind it back sort of dance, and then he starts air drumming, and now he's doing like a little just bopping his arms in the air sort of deal. Little dance. Kevin's doing a dance.
So odd. So it's just Kevin, and it says making minute-long takes with background music is fun. If you say so, it certainly looks like you're having fun.
I think that you should do this style of TikTok, Danny. Just take a random song and then do a little interpretive dance to it.
He just did a motion like he was drinking. He just did he kicked a drink back, or he... And now he's like doing a typewriter thing. And now he's like doing a point. Hey, I'm pointing at you. But when it opens, he's kind of like, he has his face right up against the camera, and he's like constantly moving up to the top of the camera, down to the bottom, to the left, to the right, it's like an interpretive dance, but it's not dancing. It's just like interpretive movements along to the song. That's fun. I didn't need to record any of that. We could just delete those from your. Because just in case there was audio of someone talking.
Now, I also, and I'm sure that you have this as well, but I stumbled across one of those. This is the premiere of this song video.
Yes.
So, yeah. Not sure if it's true or not, but I did pull the link for that just in case.
Yes, this song was premiered at a winery, which I know we've talked about, because when it comes to finding Thiessen and the Earthquakes live tracks, you pretty much get the same... you pretty much get the same 3 shows. There's this this winery show that he did by himself. There's the cinema tour with Owl City, which it's probably a couple different shows, but it's essentially the same set and different clips of it. And then there's some other show where it was just the audio, so it's like an image of the set list that the person put as the visuals. And I don't recall exactly where that was, but we'll see it in a second. First, we'll start with this winery. So this is Matthew Thiessen of Relient Caves. Oh, good Lord. That's right. We don't have YouTube Premium right now. It was nice for a little bit. Mm-hmm. You can remember older episodes of Sadie Hawkins' pod. We were constantly waiting for commercials to end. Well, we've had YouTube Premium for quite a while, but we're saving some money right now. And, it's not... We don't have it right now. Not even Jessica has it. Because before, Jessica always had it. And then we got a family plan. And then we were like, let's cut this for a little bit. So this is uploaded by Tony Falbo. Tony Falbo. This is uploaded 7 years ago. This is uploaded in January of 2017. And this says, Matt Thiessen of Relient K song debut, Mother's Triumph. This is one of several songs that Matt Thiessen premiered at the Nashville City Winery on January 17th, 2017. Unfortunately, I was only able to record just this one. Matt said the songs he played will make up a solo record at some point. Just isn't sure when. Well, just a year later, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about Relient K and the whole... is this the same? I think there's two videos of this same performance from two opposite sides of the stage. One uploaded by Joel Richardson, one uploaded by Tony Falbo. So that's the other thing about the release and the timing of this album, is that I think why it's relevant as well, given everything else we said about song structures and song genres throughout the years and timing for his marriage and the dissolution of that marriage, all that blah, blah, blah. I think why this album also finally happened was because Relient K, in that trajectory, I just can't say that word, in that history of the band from 1998 with their development deal to their first album in 2000, they just didn't freaking stop for 16 years, right? They had an album they had an album or an EP or something every single year from 2000 up to about 2010, right? So for 10 years, they had a release every single year. Then they slow down a little bit, and then they just have an album every 3 years. Non-stop, constantly touring, never slowing down. John Schneck's official take on him not being in the band after Collapse of a Lung is because, he just couldn't tour anymore. He just couldn't do it, and that was kind of the same thing for Warren. But we've heard it specifically from Schneck, but then he implied that that's pretty much the same thing for John Warren leaving the band. Ethan's the only one who officially said, I'm leaving Relient K at this point. John and John were just like, we can't do these tours anymore. So Relient K is going non-stop for a decade and a half. After Air for Free, I think there's finally a moment where they're like, you know what, we could breathe. We could, take some time. And they take that time, and he's like, oh, I can finally do this album. I've been talking about and working on Matthew Thiessen The Earthquakes for a decade and a half. I haven't had time because Relient K has been the thing in my life. So he finally does this in 2018. And then I think Relient K themselves would have probably got going again in 2000. And maybe we'd already have...
2020.
In 2020, sorry. In 2020, they would have got going again and probably had a new album by now. But I think COVID actually specifically puts a hamper on that. So it's just funny that, you see this thing where he's here in 2017, he's like, I'll have a new album at some point. Well, the guy just can't stop working. And Relient K is like, well, let's take a breather. Let's just take a breather. And so they decide to do that. And my screen recording has completely malfunctioned.
Uh-oh.
So I'll just play these without screen recording, and I'll just have to rip them later. Here is Matt Thiessen playing Mother's Triumph at the Nashville Winery in 2017.
Yeah, and so this is a pretty big honor. So I'm trying out a bunch of new songs I've never played for anybody. which is fun. I'm having fun. This song is a little weird. It's supposed to sound like the woods or something, I guess, and it's called Mother's Triumph, and I like my mother-in-law a lot. This one's about her.
All of the animals in the woods outside your parents' house in Connecticut. See all of the fruit trees shining in the sun, wonderfully alive. I promise you I won't say goodbye. I want all the world to know your mother's triumph. Oh, oh, oh. We should carve our names into an old dead tree trunk, buried in the snow. Oh, 'cause so, a matter of fact, we've gotta go. But this will last forever if we never dare let it fade.
I think it's sweet that he's like, this is about my mother-in-law. I like her a lot. That's cute.
That's nice.
I mean, another way to read that is he's like, this is about my mother-in-law. And he's like, yeah, mother-in-law, I want to carve our names into an old dead tree trunk. Okay.
Yeah, no, but it's about his wife.
Yes.
But it's by proxy about his
Yes.
mother-in-law. I understand now.
I get it. I was just teasing.
Yeah.
The song was originally called MILF, but then he changed it.
Oh no. Oh no, no comment. So it's nice to see it actually stripped down in just the guitar, right? Not all there are bells and whistles in the studio album,
Right.
in the studio track. What else? There's the cinema tour. So here is the aforementioned pseudo guest of this episode,
Nice.
Robert Gay, and he is here. Why is this cut into chapters? That's funny. This is a performance with Owl City. This is Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes live at the Complex, Salt Lake City, Utah. This is uploaded by Clayton 5 years ago in 2018. So this is when Matthew Thiessen and Robert Gay, together as Matt Thiessen and the Earthquakes, were opening for Owl City. So here you have just the guitar and the trumpet, and two singers, the lead singer, and then you have Robert doing the harmonies. So Thiessen didn't even bother doing like a single at the beginning. So even though this is more stripped down, it still has a little bit more going on than just a completely stripped down just guitar version, just acoustic guitar version.
All of the animals in the woods outside your parents' house in Connecticut.
Yeah, Connecticut. Woo!
Connecticut, exactly.
And all of the fruit trees shining in the sun.
Woo! Fruit trees. I love fruit. Yeah. National Tree Plant Health Day. Woo!
Wonderfully alive. I promise you I won't say goodbye. I want all the world to know your mother's triumph. Oh.
Let's get to some trumpet. The trumpet. Hey, Jessica. A little bit of Jessica. Why did Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes cover Mambo No. 5? They already had a trumpet in the band.
I want all the world to know your mother's triumph. Oh, we should carve our names into an old dead tree trunk, buried in the snow, 'cause it's all a matter of fact. We've gotta go, but this will last forever if we never dare let it fade.
Really pretty live.
Yeah, very nice. 4 years ago, Bob123full replied on a comment on this video and said, "Anyone else wonderfully alive today?" I hope you're all wonderfully alive today on this Mother. Is anyone else wonderfully alive on this Mother's Day? Please go to. Everyone should go to Mother's Triumph, Matthew Thiessen and the Earthquakes, upload by Clayton, live video, and respond to Bob123full and say, "Yes, I'm feeling wonderfully alive today in 2024."
We should cut our names into an old dead tree trunk. We should carve our names into an old dead tree. I want all the world to know your mother's triumph. We should carve our names into an old dead tree.
There's one other comment about the song and the lyrics that I forgot to mention earlier, and that's that I like this little thing that I don't know if he intended it this way, but it played out this way in my mind, this like little time skip. Because he says, we can carve our names into an old dead tree trunk. No one has to know. So just a cute little thing like, hey, you and me are in love. We're going to carve our names into an old tree trunk like it's the 1930s or something. Right. And then he repeats that phrase later and he says, we can carve our names into an old dead tree trunk buried in the snow. And I don't know, how else does anyone else read? How do you all listening read that change at that moment? Was the tree always buried in the snow? Were they walking through the snow and stopped to carve their name in the tree trunk? Because, I don't know, to me, I'm like, if you're going to carve your name in a tree trunk, it's going to be harder to do in the snow. And are the animals all around the house in Connecticut in the winter in the snow? I don't feel like, when I hear all the fruit trees out and all the animals out and about, I'm thinking it's warm weather.
Yeah.
Or at least it's autumn. It's not snow on the ground. So when I hear, that's what I picture in my mind. And then suddenly one of the choruses say, tree trunk buried in the snow. It's almost like we've skipped ahead another season or two, or possibly a few years in the future, and that same tree trunk is still there, and now it's buried in the snow. I wonder if that was intentional, or if it's just a little change up, just a little lyric that sounded nice, that rhymed. But that's what played out in my mind. And
then at the end he just says, into an old dead tree. And so I'm like, is it actually going backwards? Like, was there an old dead tree, then they shot part of it down, there was just an old dead tree trunk,
wow.
then
You just blew my mind.
Buried in the snow.
You honestly just blew my mind a little bit. Could you imagine if it's going backwards in time? That would be wild. So the other live version is the one I was talking about. This is uploaded by Ben Sharon. We'll hear what this sounds like. This is the one where there's no video. It was just audio recorded live in Nashville Villager Tavern, 7/29. I guess 7/29/2018 when this video came out, and it's just an image of the set list from that night, like scanned. But we can't see what's going on. Oh, there's drumming going on in this version. So this is like a full band version. So let's definitely listen to a little bit of this. I'll start back about a minute into the song.
We've gotta go. This will last forever if we never dare let it fade. Beautiful furniture, sought out long ago by a father's ghost.
Oh, he changed it by a daughter's ghost.
I think he said grandfather's.
No, I think he says father or grandfather on the album, but I think in this live version he said a daughter's ghost.
Sought Sought out long ago by a father's ghost.
Yeah, he could have said fathers, but or he could have just mumbled and put a sound by mistake.
Yeah, I think it was more of a little mumble.
Like a little lisp on the word at that moment. Yeah, I just put it right to my ear, and I heard fathers.
Yeah.
There's just a little stumble of a duh, and it's like, whoa, what does he mean by saying daughter's ghost in 2018?
Right.
I don't think there's trumpet here. Oh no, there is. Okay, so let's hear the trumpet. Let's hear the trumpet. Let's hear the trumpet in this version with the drums as well. It's like we're building up the song. We started with acoustic only, then we heard it with just two singers and a trumpet and a guitar, and now we're hearing the full band version live.
Right, it's the old dead tree.
Yeah.
Now it's buried in the snow. Now it's just a tree trunk.
A matter of fact, we've gotta go. This will last forever if we never dare let it fade away. This will last forever if we never dare let it fade.
Very nice. I like it. It's great that we have all three. So I think we came across this talking about one of our previous 3 Earthquakes albums, but it's fun how you can kind of take some of these songs and hear 4 iterations of them, 3 completely different live versions, and the full album version. Then there's just one cover, and this is uploaded by Jeremiah Lynn Music 6 years ago. This is the only cover of Mother's Triumph.
Use kayaks filters to find hotels.
It's not this kayak commercial.
Hashtag not sponsored.
Not sponsored. Nor is it this Hidden Valley Ranch commercial.
We could cut those out if you didn't talk about them, Danny.
Too late. I'm just hoping they'll send us some Hidden Valley Ranch.
All the animals in the woods outside your parents' house in Connecticut. See all the fruit trees.
I feel like it's a step off from the album.
Yeah, it's a little different. I thought maybe it was just a
fine.
different interpolation.
Yeah.
We're shining in so wonderfully alive. I'm telling you I won't say goodbye. I want all the world to know your mother's triumph. Oh, we could carve our names into an old dead tree trunk, buried in the snow. 'Cause a matter of fact, we've gotta go. This will last forever if we never did let it fade.
I get it. For some people, including myself, you hear, you're used to these simple to digest sort of pop punk melodies from a band like Relient K, even if they're doing something slightly different. And then you hear an album in this style and it washes over you and you can't retain it. It's like you've only been reading John Grisham novels your whole life, and then you sit down to read Charles Dickens and you're like, what? Or something more challenging than Charles Dickens even. It's like, so you read some like old English novel and you're like, what? I can't, I'm not retaining this. I don't get it. I don't get the form of even how this is written. So I understand. But when I just hear this melody, maybe more so than Dude or Dreaming that we previously talked about, but then a song like Man of Stone might be the similar way I'm thinking here. I hear Mother's Triumph and I'm like, this could easily be reinterpreted into a Relient K song. I think you can get some other instrumentation. You can arrange it in a different manner, and you could make this an Air for Free song. I think, get
sure. I think so,
get some of that drum, that program drumming like from Air for Free, and make this a little Empty House kind of. Put this before or after Empty House on the track list. Like, it's always the same. It's the same artist who's written these songs, so I don't want to discredit him and say, like, well, everything he writes sounds the same, because it doesn't, because I think there's songs on Wind Up Bird that couldn't be Relient K songs, but I think it's just discredit to only hear these songs and think these just aren't anything like Relient K. I think there's things in here that you can hear and understand that they're Matt Thiessen, and it's the same DNA in Relient K that you hear in these songs. So we'll let Jeremiah play us out. Jessica, what do you think of the song Mother's Triumph?
I think I like it more.
I think I like it more as well. I think I've definitely retained this song a lot more than previous Earthquake songs we've kind of looked at.
Yeah, I'm glad that we did a deeper dive on this one, because it's definitely, like, I think we both said it earlier in the episode that, like, we both have a tendency to kind of forget about this album just in general, and so we don't spend a lot of time listening back to it and thinking about it, and so I enjoyed doing the, like, deep dive and diving a little further into this song.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely like this song better. This is a song that I feel like more connected to and more understanding, less feeling like Dude definitely left me feeling a little bit more like, what did we talk about? Right. But I feel like I'll remember this conversation and I'll recall this song more often.
Yeah, I think Dude was the one where he was like, I didn't have to chase my dreams chased me, and I got mad at that line because I'm like, oh, F
lucky
you entitled. Yeah. Douchebag.
Lucky duck.
Lucky you.
Well, anyway, yes, I definitely like this song more than before as well. That's my rating. So, happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Happy Mother's Day out there.
Yep, it's an hour before Mother's Day on the West Coast, so we'll see when this episode actually comes out. But hey, we did it. We released an episode less than 4 weeks after the previous one. Check us out. Check us out. Keep checking us out like you're doing right now.
Yes. Thank you for listening. Stay safe and healthy out there.
It's the end of the episode. Why didn't I just say, check us out? Hope you liked this episode. If you enjoyed this episode, try listening to this episode. What? What are you talking about?
If you made it all the way through this episode,
check us out. Listen to it. Yeah, check us out. If you like this episode, listen to more. You're
like,
joining us with
subscribe.
with the Mother's Triumph episode. Later. And brand new news for our Patreon is that we have lowered and exciting news is that we have lowered the cost of both of our tiers at Patreon. Here, take it. And exciting news is that we
Oh, sorry.
And exciting news is that we have lowered the Everybody shut the up.